Good evening, beautiful people. It is yours truly, MrGrinnan, aka Lee, with a lovely server video for you all. Tonight I am joined by SlayerAus, aka Austin, and we're going to talk about some rules and regulation do's and don'ts to help clarify some quote unquote gray areas for you guys about the server rules. So I'm going to give you guys a few scenarios and then talk about how the rules might be interpreted by our staff, or at least as the owners expect our staff to interpret those rules, and a little bit more details about that later on in the video itself. So, Austin, would like to introduce yourself, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the video.
How you guys doing? My name's Austin. I've known Lee for quite a few years and Josh for almost as long. I'm going to be one of the admins on the server alongside Bumpy Pillow. It's a role that I've filled in the past, and so I look forward to meeting all of you guys and hopefully helping you guys to experience the game in the best way that I can.
Aww.
So say you have a town, and, well, I don't like you very much, as you know. If I come up to your town and say I set a home just outside your town, and I decide that I'm going to dig a sky to bedrock moat around your house,
Okay.
what sort of repercussions would come to me?
So, if you are knowingly targeting players within that town, that would be considered harassment by our staff team, as you're purposely digging around the edge of that town to bother the people within that town. So that would indeed be considered harassment, and it would probably your build would probably be rolled back. Now, if you are griefing a house that is outside of the town to take its items, that sort of thing, then that would be allowed. However, if you're purposely building a giant moat or something along those lines, digging trenches, that sort of thing within a block, within a chunk of that town itself, then yeah, that's going to be seen as harassment. So try to stay away from that. Does that answer that question for you?
Now, what happens if my town, say, is unprotected? I'm out in the wilderness, I have a base set up, you come around and you dig that same trench around my base. Do I
Okay.
have any sort of the same protections?
So unfortunately, we are going to, or not necessarily unfortunately, I guess just overall, we are going to allow griefing to take place in non-protected areas. So if your house is not protected in a town, then your house is unfortunately fair, or again, not unfortunately, your house is going to be fair game to other players, including those that might just be right next door in the neighboring towns, or anybody across the server. Your stuff is fair game if it is not protected. But yeah, does that answer that one?
That it does.
Okay. And another scenario that might be questionable is to what then do I do if I'm a new server member and I'm trying to get myself started, like need some extra cash, that sort of thing. We are going to provide some incentives to our server members for voting, so you will have some money or achieve them that. And of course, there's going to be jobs and then selling items to other players or the admin shop along those lines, that sort of thing. So you can make some money here and there, but we would suggest you join a town if you're just getting started, so that way your builds will be protected, your stuff will be protected, and you don't have to worry about this sort of issue. So yeah, there are ways to get around it, and we'll make sure that our server is as friendly and open as possible. So does that help answer that question a little bit better for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to take it in a little bit of a different direction now,
Okay.
and I want to say, what happens if I'm, say, a part of your town for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden you log in one day, and every resource that you've ever collected, and every part of your town is just completely gone, and now it's sitting in my new town's vaults.
So that would definitely fall under the next topic, of course, which is stealing, robbing, and scamming. So if you take your stuff and leave my town, sure, that's fine. You want to go off and do your own thing. But if you're taking my stuff and leaving my town with it, then that would indeed be stealing. So we would have staff roll that back. Again, you'd be allowed to leave with your stuff, but once you're taking other people's stuff, that's not allowed. That would be considered stealing, which is indeed part of griefing, as you're not allowed to grief protected areas. So yeah, that's a no-no.
All right. Now, what happens if the reverse happens? And, me and you are buddies. I'm in your town for about 2 weeks. One day I log in, and I'm no longer in the town. I no longer have access to any of my chests. I no longer have access to any of my resources. No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So there would be two ways I can imagine that might happen. First would be that the config itself has kicked you out of the town because if your town has taxes in place, which they'll have to let you know about beforehand, or it'll be listed somewhere. They'll tell you. Then if you don't have the money in your balance, you'll be kicked out of the town because you don't have money in your balance anymore. Most likely in that sort of situation, the town mayor would let you back on into the town, at least to get your stuff. If not, stick around for a little bit. They might give you some money to, hey, here's some money so you can help pay the tax. We thought you're a valuable member of the town. Please stay along and hang out. A second scenario would be something along the lines as to where the mayor kicks you out due to some sort of reason that they have, whether it's past arguments, anything along those lines. So more of a negative connotation there, of course. And in that scenario, we would have our staff team try to sort the issue to the best of their ability, we would probably give the player their items back if the mayor would not give the items back to the player themselves. And it would just be a little bit more of a staff discretionary choice being made there because we want to make sure that the players are happy at the end of the day, and we want to try to help sort out any scenarios the way that we can.
Now, through the system, through the server, we probably have some sort of a plugin or something to be able to differentiate between my items and yours.
Yes, yeah, we do. Core Inspector actually allows the staff members to go ahead and see what was taken out from where and what the stats of the items were, anything along those lines, little specific details that would help differentiate between item A and item B, to help show whose was whose and what was what, to allow people to get their stuff back, because that is important.
Well, that sounds like we got a pretty secure server going on here.
Oh my gosh, it's almost like we put some time and effort in this thing or something.
But my next topic that I want to bring up is some inappropriate language. I understand that we want to keep the server pretty PG.
Okay.
However, we're willing to go a little bit PG-13. But
PG-13.
How much is too much?
How much is too much? Okay. Yeah. So how much is too much would be. So this would go back to the no excessive cursing rule. And so if you have like maybe 3 or 4 choice words in a sentence, probably not. So you can use a few choice words, especially if they're not directed at another player. But just try to keep it down a little bit. If a staff member asks you to tone it down, please try to do so. And any sort of choice word that is involving hate speech, such as homophobic slurs, racial slurs, anti-Semitic comments, anti-other religion comments, anything along those lines, to where it's actively attacking another player or used as hate speech in some regard, that won't be allowed, obviously.
All right, and that makes sense. Now, who ultimately decides how much is too much?
So at the end of the day, it's going to be up to our staff team to help differentiate that. If a staff member asks you to tone it down, please do so. I know that there's been a lot of past experiences, myself included, where I've been on a server as a player, not as a staff member. And staff members have been seen as high and mighty, a little bit too all-powerful in some regard. And I understand that may be some concern to other players that are coming onto this server as well. But as one of your owners, and Josh being the other one, aka the Critical Fern, we are going to do our best to help sort through and make sure that we have the best staff available to our server and the community as a whole. We're going to expect them to have a certain mindset and courtesy to our players and make sure that they have a good time on the server. And in order to do that, we're going to make sure that everyone has a good time. So if you're getting a little too much, then they're going to ask you to quiet down, and please listen to them. Now, if there is an issue with the staff overusing or abusing their powers in any shape, way, or form, please let us know, and we'll try to sort that issue to the best of our abilities. And we won't know about it unless you tell us about it. And you can always reach us over Discord, potentially through the website once that's up and running, or even on the server itself through a private message. We'll try to help you sort that out where we can. But again, at the end of the day, the staff are going to be staff for a reason. We're going to make sure that they are highly trained and ready to take on any situation that is given to them through the server. But yeah, please listen to our staff. They're there for a reason.
That they are. Now, just as clarification here, what if we bring up a fight that I'm having? Bumpy's another admin, right? Mm-hmm. Me and him say we play another game together. We get into a fight. We have an altercation. is it your job to mediate our altercation if it's off-site, off-server, off Discord?
No. So if it is off-site, off-server, off Discord, or anything along the lines, that would not fall under our jurisdiction. Therefore, our rules are not being stated on that site, server, or anything along those lines. So if you're talking smack to somebody over Snapchat, that would be under Snapchat's terms of service and agreement there, not ours. So unfortunately, it would be out of our jurisdiction. Now, if that drama comes on our server, then it's going to be our issue. So we'll sort it out there. Again, if it's not with any of our products, Discord, website, server, anything along those lines, so on and so forth, etc., then unfortunately there is not much we can do about it until it is made on our turf.
Okay. Uh, Next thing I have up is the topic of harassment.
Mm.
Um, at what point does a little bit of banter, a little bit of fun, a little, back and forth between friends turn into making someone else uncomfortable?
So that would be up to the players themselves. So if somebody's asking to stop, please listen to them, respect their wishes, and do stop. Especially if it gets to the point of a thing being emotional. So if you're on the Discord and you're just sitting there, kind of like picking at each other, and they're like, "Hey, knock it off." Please do so. And if you're getting to the point to where you're both getting heated and not asking each other to knock it off and just continuing the banter too much past a point, and staff is present, the staff might ask you to knock it off as well, or on the server as well. If a staff member asks you to take it to town chat, nation chat, private chat, please do so, because not everyone wants to see your drama the whole day long. So at the end of the day, it's up to the players themselves to differentiate when it should stop, unless otherwise given orders by staff. Maybe not orders, but dictated by staff that it should be kind of closed off.
All right. Uh, Something like trespassing. Does that fall under? If I'm at my
Uh,
house, you come over, I'm like, hey, I don't want you here. Can you please leave? At what point does my stay there become harassment?
so if I ask you to leave and you do not, then that would be along the lines of you being obnoxious and harassing, or you being depends on your what you're doing there. So if you're just hanging out and they ask you to leave and it's like, oh, I'm just hanging out, and they said, oh, okay, then that's okay. But if you say, oh, I just want to hang out and see what you're doing, and they say, oh, well, I'm a little bit busy right now, do you mind, or could you please leave? If they ask you a second time or even a third time, definitely at that time it would be considered harassment by staff. Um, but if it's just one time and you're like, oh, I'm just looking at blah blah blah, and they say, okay, that's fine, continue on. Um, but again, if they ask you a second or third time, definitely. Um, and if you use any sort of means to get into their house where they have it closed, uh, so if you use chorus fruit or an elytra to fly in some way, shape, or form to a window or to a ladder at the top of their house, or even use your fly ability as a donor or staff member, whatever it may be, to enter somebody else's property. Staff obviously wouldn't be as much of an issue, but donors. Um, then please respect their wishes. If it's closed off, it's probably closed off for a reason. If they had the door open and you wanted to walk in and say hi, sure, the door is open. But if it's closed, leave it as such.
All right. Now, I noticed you said in there something about staff using their ability to fly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would assume that staff are not immune to these rules.
Correct. So staff are not immune to the rules to a certain degree. If it's like, honestly, if you think about it like from the terms of police officer, in a way that's kind of what a staff member is. Obviously, they don't have as much authority or ability in some regards, but they do have the best intentions of the server in mind. So they'll be looking for any sort of probable cause to enter an area. So if they see you sitting there with an AFK grinder or anything along those lines, then they're gonna come into your area and tell you to knock it off. They will probably be able to TP to the player themselves, especially for our mods and admins, and be like, "What are you doing?" Helpers might have a little bit more issue getting inside the house, but at the end of the day, they are going to make sure that you're following the rules. If you're following the rules and you ask them to leave, they might do so, and they probably will do so. But if they're just like, "Oh, I'm just coming to check it out, just making sure everything's okay," and you're like, "Yeah, I'm doing all right. Please leave, though," they most likely will. Obviously, we're going to hire staff once again, be kind and courteous, as we'd expect them to be. So does that answer that question for you?
Well, we have one more topic to talk about,
Okay.
and that is glitches and exploits.
Okay.
Well, what are they? What is the server doing to not only prevent these, but to discourage people from using them?
Okay. So, kind of bouncing off, I guess, a little bit about entering somebody's property without the permission. I know that you and I previously talked about in past discussion the ability of using elytras to kind of glitch through certain areas, and that would kind of fall under glitches, obviously, which would be using a part of the game for something outside of its initial purpose. So, elytras glitching, block glitching, some whatever way in that to gain entry somewhere that you maybe shouldn't be, that would be considered a glitch. If you have to use the word glitch in the sentence to describe it, then obviously it's a glitch. And exploits would be something along the lines as to using software or some other part of the game to make it do something that it's not supposed to as well. And so that'd be more the software side. Glitches would be more the game part side, I guess. I don't know. So using something within the game, and then or exploitation would be using part of the plugins. It's really hard to decipher there. One such issue I know that has been had on a lot of past servers is the AFK plugin. Thankfully, we have something in lines to where AFK is going to safeguard a majority of that. So if your head is stationary and your body is stationary, you're going to be marked as AFK and then kicked off the server within a short amount of time, I think like 10 or 15 minutes or so, because we want our players to be active and part of our community, which is why that would be in tow there. So you can't have massive AFK farms where you go to bed and wake up with $1 million in your pocket. We don't want that. So that's going to be in place there. And I know that there is, of course, the AFK fishing farm, which a lot of people like to use, and that would be more acceptable. However, it would be flagged as AFK just due to the fact that your head and your body would not be moving after a certain point. So you would be marked as AFK regardless. And the best way to kind of counteract that is to, sure, if you want to be AFK, at least in that scenario, go put on Netflix on a second screen or have it up on a background and watch it, and then come back every 2 or 3 minutes to make sure you're still logged on the game, so that we can see that you are indeed a part of the community on the server itself, not just leaving to go get lunch with your mom and then coming back 30 minutes later, something like that, you know? Does that answer that, though?
That absolutely does.
Good.
I think that concludes my questioning.
Awesome. So a few other updates for you all before I head out completely here. So the server itself, obviously, will be releasing on Sunday, December 16th, which is indeed enclosing itself upon us. It's getting closer and closer, peoples. It's coming. Hopefully this video itself helped answer a few questions about rules that I have received from a few players. And again, the rules are here to make sure that everybody has a good time. So we want them to be adhered to as such. Now, a few updates regarding the spawn. The spawn itself is almost done. Should be completed here pretty soon, hopefully by the weekend, with a few exceptions for decoration. Within the first week, the spawn itself will release player shops by the end of the first week, as well as the church, which would then allow the marriage plugin to be used. Marriage plugin to be used. And then you'll have a few extra bonuses through the marriage plugin. The week after that, we're going to add a second arena. The first arena will be opening with the server. Will be found within our tavern at the underneath in the basement, and will be a non-keep inventory arena. So if somebody kills you, they're going to take your stuff. The second arena will have keep inventory on, so it's a little bit more protected. You can go around and swing your awesome sword, smash some skulls, and keep it at the end of the day. But yeah, and then after that, we are going to have a parkour open up soon enough, a herbalist shop, a few other goodies here and there as the server increases in size, and the needs of the server itself increase as well. So if you guys have other comments or suggestions, please let us know, us being any of the staff members you currently see, including myself, Josh, Austin, July, aka Bumpy Pillow, or either of our devs being Watto or Tal. But yeah, so if you do think of something, please let us know. And if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Stick around for more information and server bits and pieces. Who knows? Server bits and pieces. As for updates, that's what I was looking for. Server information and updates. There we go. Which you can find on this channel itself. Hope you guys are having a great day and look forward to seeing you soon. This is yours truly, signing off.